Oh, it's recording now?
Oh, it says recording in front. Yes.
Okay. So
I don't know if it's from my side or yours, though.
it's my side.
Who's recording?
Me. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Hello,
right.
everybody, and hello, Ben, for another session. So today, we're going to cover Arupa jhana. Well, technically, there is only 4 jhanas, which is the Rupa one, and the Arupa one is called immaterial attainment. So just to clarify, so people don't get confused, that there are 8, 9 jhanas, right? It's just that for convenience, then we classify it. But technically, in the book, there is only 4 jhanas, and the Rupa is immaterial. Now, I don't personally know how to go from Arupa to Rupa, right? So let's recap. Rupa meaning we are meditating, we are still in the body, we are aware of the senses, but we are in the meditative state of bliss. It goes from rapture, joy, contentment, and then it comes down to dead stillness, one-pointedness, and that's the 4th. And then from the 4th, we go to the 5th. So for me, to be honest, I didn't even know I need, right? I don't even know I need what, right? But what happened was I was retreating with my lay teacher, and I know he is special because he has the field. And the way you detect whether a person have a field is how their presence affects you, right? Some people just very metta, very kind, very calm, and you're in their presence and you feel calm and you feel relaxed. That's different. This energy works in your mind, works to sharpen your awareness, right? So you can you know if you are in proximity with this field by being aware of your awareness. That's why it's crucial for us to know what's going on with our mind and our feeling, because when we're in a place where it's like negative energy, it would affect us differently. And when we are in a very positive, advanced being, then we would know their energy by the effects it have on us, right? If we are not used to tuning into our mind, tuning into our feeling and body, then we wouldn't know these changes. So if we are very unconscious and doesn't have self-awareness, then even if we're in the presence of a Buddha, say, or enlightened person, right, we wouldn't know, because we wouldn't be able to detect what's happening to us, because we don't have that habitual awareness of what's going on in our body and mind. I don't know exactly the mechanic of it, exactly what happened, but what happened is, so after the retreat, I go home, and for 3 nights I can't sleep, right? Because I have a massive surge of energy. I was very awake, very aware, and full of energy, not in a restless way, but in a wide awake way, right? So after 3 days of not sleeping, I'm kind of like worried, right? But on the fourth day, I did sleep. And when I woke up, I noticed massive change. That's another thing, you see, because if we spend years and years of training awareness to be in the present and scanning our body and mind, then when things change or new things happen, we know. So on this morning when I wake up, I know something happened, right? And what happened is literally I can't feel my head, right? It's like there's only my eyes and the rest of my head I can't feel. It's like it's being expanded. It's up there. It feels really big. I'm not too sure if you have the experience of expansion in your meditation. Not expansion in the body, but in the mind, right? You feel very big. And another thing is it feels very bright. Yeah, you have a question, Ben?
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I have had experiences of expansion, but I'm not sure if it's really in the same territory that you mention. It just feels like the mind becomes large, but let's say like the whole room around me. That I occasionally experience.
There's two types. There's one which while you are walking outside of meditation, and there's the one that you are sitting and meditate, right? So okay, so I will cover while we are meditating, right? Because in other clip we cover jhanas while we are sitting and meditating. So now I will cover arupa while we're meditating, right? So after you relax, you go into the mind and it automatically expands, right? You feel the expansion. The crucial thing here is when you expand it, the body is transcended, meaning like it's there, you can sense it, but you're not in it like in the arupa jhanas, right? This when the mind going out, that going out space, infinite spaciousness is the fifth, right? So this movement of expansion is very much the pattern of the first jhana. So this is the first jhana of arupa. So there is this movement, right? Just like the first jhana, there is this movement of energy. The same with the fifth. The fifth is the movement of consciousness. It's expanding. And its nature is infinite. So it keeps expanding, right? It have no boundary, right? So that is the fifth, infinite, spacious. And then the sixth is infinite consciousness, right? Now, remember how the first jhana and the second jhana, we have this rapture and we have this feeling of joy and happiness. Well, with arupa, the fifth and the sixth, right, you have the same bliss, right? But this bliss is phenomenal. I can't describe anything like it that I ever experienced in any meditation or in any worldly experience. It's purely mind-based, right? And the ecstasy and the bliss is so big that the sense of self can't contain it, right? The sense of self is so tiny, and infinite space and infinite consciousness and infinite bliss is so big it can't contain. So when we can't contain something that is so big, like so blissful, you just have to surrender, right? Meaning surrender to the experience, surrender to the bliss, right? We can't even like want to be aware or want to know it, because we just don't have that capacity. It's just too big. So in the fifth and the sixth, as the consciousness expand and the bliss is phenomenal, then the sense of self is very tiny, just barely aware, right? Because all we do is just enjoy the bliss.
Okay.
So, but it stopped, right? It stopped at some point, and then there's nothing happened. There's just there. Oh, with arupa, there is no light, right? And this is another signature, because light belongs to rupa. In material, there's no light.
Oh, okay.
There is feeling of bliss, there is perception,
Okay.
there is awareness, but there is no any visual at all, let alone thought. Thoughts already stopped long time ago. And the body, when you enter arupa, that's when the body stops, meaning the breath, right? It's not that we are dead, it's just that we don't even perceive our breathing, because everything is just so big, right?
Okay.
Every experience is just so phenomenal.
So nothing of the five senses.
Yeah. Yeah. This is when you really not sensing the five senses at all. And
Okay.
and I because I experienced this for so long, like 18 months, I try everything, right? I try to open my eyes, but you can't even open your eyes, right? Open your eyes is like moving a mountain or something. It's so hard and heavy. And even if you open a tiny bit of tiny slit, all you see is bright light, right? You can't see anything. It's like you're blind. So
Okay.
so we cover fifth and sixth, we cover bliss, we now nothingness is number 7, right? Is nothing, right? There is nothing happening. The expansion stop, the bliss stop, and of course there's no visual of anything, so you're just sitting there, just experiencing nothing happening, right? And then something very interesting happened. So we following the pattern of rupa, right? So in the eighth, the reason why I say the rupa and arupa pattern is similar, because in the eighth, there is the gathering of the energy, exactly like the gathering of the energy in the fourth. But the difference is this gathering energy is phenomenally strong, right? So the sense of self, or the awareness, can't contain it, can't resist it. I tried, like I have very strong will. You know, I got quite a strong willpower in meditation. I can stop experience, but I can't stop this experience. And what it feels like, your awareness is this tiny flame, and this gathering of energy pressure is like this thumb that squeeze your flame out, and then you go out, right? Your flame of consciousness goes out, and that is ninth. Ninth is cessation, right? But when this is just explaining in terms of how we experience it, but in terms of the Dharma, or what's really happening, is this. So in the eighth, the feeling and perception, awareness, right? So there's three things that is still present, the three khandha that is still present at the eighth. All the other two fall away, right? The sankhara, the mind activity, stop. The rupa, stop. But the feeling, vedana, perception, sanya, and consciousness, vinaya, still present. So in the eighth, perception and feeling start to cease also. These two components start to cease, meaning it goes out. Meaning in the eighth, it goes out. It ceases, right? So consciousness can't stand on its own. You know, our awareness can't stand on its own. It needs something to depend on. It needs something to arise from. It needs nutrient. It needs, that's why it's dependent co-arising. So when perception and feeling cease, and consciousness only left to exist, it can't exist much, very long at all. That's why it starts to thin out. And that's exactly what you would feel in the eighth. That it feels like somebody squeezing your consciousness out, but it's what actually happened is our consciousness starts to thin out because it doesn't have anything to depend on. Right? It slowly dies on its own. It's like a fire that doesn't have any log or anything to feed it. It'll just die out slowly. And that's exactly how you would feel that your consciousness or your awareness thinning out and then gone. And that gone, that's that point of cessation.
So it's like the carpet is pulled from under consciousness.
The carpet is pulled out of under your feet. What do you mean?
Under consciousness.
Yeah. That's
like
right.
You mentioned how consciousness. Okay.
Yeah. So
like its fuel is gone, so consciousness cannot remain.
Yeah, it can't remain. Yeah, that's right. So that point of everything cease and you go unconsciousness. So when consciousness goes out, we go unconscious. And the way you know is like you lose, it's basically like you go off to sleep or something. It's like your head roll, right? Nothing to keep your head up anymore. So your head will just fall. and yeah, and so at that point it's called cessation.
Yeah.
Right, but that cessation is very important, is very special, something special about this cessation. It's called Naroda Samapati, right? Naroda is cessation, and I don't know what Samapati is, but it specifically describes this state of cessation, right? So what happened when this person cessation and stay in this state for long, and you put him in emergency, he'll be declared dead, right? There won't be any heartbeat. His heartbeat would be flatline. And there won't be any pulses, right? But he'll still be warm. Or she would still be warm. The person vital organ is still working, it's still warm. It's just everything else is gone, right? So I heard there was a person who gone into this state randomly, and was declared dead, but because the doctor was an Indian, he didn't put this person in the morgue. He just leave him there, and then he wake up after a few hours. Right? Wow. Yeah. So that's the in the sutta. There's maybe 2 or 3 sutta describing this state. So so I've covered the meditation side. Do you have any question regarding the arupa? So I don't know how other people experience it, but the way I experience it is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, boom, in half an hour, or in 1 hour, right? Previously, first jhana is 2 years, second jhana 1 year. It speed up like that. But when it comes to arupa, it's not even 1 week. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, boom, in half an hour or an hour. But it's like that with every session, or almost every session that you sit down and meditate.
Okay. And do you equate the 9th Nirodha Samapati? Is that Nibbana? Do you equate that with Nibbana?
No. So that is cessation. That's just give you insight that nothing is yours, right? Nothing is permanent. So that's really drive it home that everything is impermanent, even your consciousness, right? Before, it's very hard to see your awareness as impermanent. You can see everything else passing and rising, but it's very hard to see your consciousness as impermanent. But this experience proof that it's not permanent. So the reason why it is not Nibbana, because when you come out of that experience, your sense of self is still there. even though remember when we are in this arupa, or I can't speak for everybody, the mind still remain big. Yeah, it doesn't contract down to a normal state how it was before. No, right? That's why the mind, the consciousness remain big, but it's very hard to function when your consciousness is big. Imagine your head is this ginormous big balloon, and it tried to walk on these two little feet, and it tried to talk, and it tried to work. It tried to drive, right? It's very hard. That's when I realized that this sense of self is very contracted, right? This sense of self, you have to pull all that infinite consciousness down and contain it in this tiny energy so that you can function like a normal human being. You know, hold a conversation, do maths, drive properly, go to shopping, all the normal thing, right? But when you're in Arupa, the consciousness return to its normal state, its natural state, and it just want to stay there. It don't want to come down. It don't want to be contracted. So when you sit down and meditate and let it be, it's like yahoo! It's like yay! It's like, you know, I can be. It's like a dog running to a beach or running out the park free. So when you sit and meditate, it's like that. Consciousness is like yay! It is like now I can be free. You know, I'm not stucking down. I need to contract down and talk and contract down and drive and contract it down and do all the things. It doesn't mean that when I try to contract it down and do all this, I'm successful. No, it's very hard, right? So there is this phenomenon where there is literally, you try to focus and pull your mind down, and you try to talk to a person, right? And halfway, it pull you up, right? And halfway, it returned big, and then you lost it. You can't talk because you're not aware of who you're talking, and you're not. There is no cognition and no the sankara aspect. You know, the mind activity is not there, so you can't hold a conversation. The same thing with going shopping. It's really weird. It's really weird experience. It take a long time. You look at things and you don't know what they are, right? And you can't remember why you're going shopping for, right? So you try to, okay, this moment I saw milk, I better grab it before I lost it again.
Okay.
So going to shopping is challenging. Now driving is even worse, okay? This is what happened when you drive. So you're at the intersection and you want to turn.
So it can be.
Yeah. So imagine you're in the intersection and you want to turn right, right? So in order to turn right, you look left to see if there's any car coming. You look right to see if any car coming. But by the time you turn right, you forgot that if there's any car on the left. right? So you turn back to the left again and you forgot whether there's car on the right. So you're standing there at the intersection turning like this. And then it's like, okay, I'm just going to go. I'm not very sure at all, but I'm just going to go. Because
so memory is not being registered.
It's not like that. It's more like each moment is in itself, right? Each moment of awareness is in itself. It doesn't depend. It doesn't depend on the previous moment. So it's like another phenomenon where you're angry at somebody, or you feel irritated for somebody, and then you turn around and your vision is something else, and then all your irritation and all your anger is just gone. So the next so the next moment doesn't depend on the previous moment. It doesn't affect it. It's I don't really understand the whole mechanic of it, but you're very present, right? So incredibly present. You have to, like, all your mindfulness practice in all the 20 or 30 years is so important now, because if you're not mindful, you're going to fall. Because your awareness or your mind is so big, so you have to, like, walk every step, watch every step. It doesn't mean that you know where you're going or even what ground is this, but just enough that you don't fall or you don't hit into something. So, in short, a person going through this state, I don't know how long, but for me it's 18 months, probably say 2 years, right? In this state, you can't work. You like bare minimum functioning. So you have to organize your life so you'll be safe for yourself and safe for others.
So for lay people to achieve such states, you would say that they would need to have periods of where they diminish their activities a lot.
That's right. Not to the point where you are housebound. No, because you can still walk to the shop and buy stuff, or you can drive, but you can drive, less than 15 minutes away. I would stick to less than 20 minutes away. Anything further than that, I won't go. And I would drive like a grandma, drive very slow. But on another thing also is, it's just karmically I have a bush property to go to get away. If you don't, and you stay in a suburb, you feel unwell, because another characteristic is that we are so, how you call it, so light and so empathetic that we end up feeling all the people around us, feeling their pain, feeling their energy. So a lot of the time, this person would feel unwell. But the moment I go, say, to the bush or to seclusion, whoa, I feel well again. I feel like normal. I feel not sick. It's not that it's sick. It's just like this uncomfortableness. this feeling of not being well, right? So when you go out in the bush away from the suburb or into the country, then you feel very good. You feel, normal. So that's why I guess the Buddha recommends seclusion from the city.
So emerging from a immaterial attainment back into like the body and form, it almost sounds like it's a traumatic experience to come back to this contracted state.
It's not traumatic in the sense that because I know what's going on, so I don't have this anxiety that I'm going crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is just organizing my life to facilitate the process.
Mm.
So another another phenomenon. So you gotta understand what happening here is when the mind stay big, right? The sense of self is already is very thin, right? Because you can see like every time you need to talk, you got to pull it down. You drive, you need to focus, right? But if you don't, if you go into just one moment of relaxation, your sense of self very big. So by that token, it's not hard at all for the sense of self to completely gone. So there is this phenomenon of on and off, on and off. It's like turning on the light, turning off the light, turning on, turning off. So for example, you might talk to your wife and all of a sudden you sit there and you just stare at her, right? She doesn't know what's going on, but in your experience, you don't know who that is. You don't know who your wife is. You don't know who you are. And you don't know what is this, like the chair or the house you got. There is no knowing at all. Your sense of self is gone. But there is seeing, right? You see this image. You see colors, you see light, but you got no knowing of whether that is a chair or not a chair or person or not. So this state, right, is nirvana. This state is like in that sutta called Bahiya. You know that Bahiya?
Yeah, the Bahaya Sutta. Yes.
Yeah. In the seeing, there is no seeing, and there is no you in anywhere in between or anywhere. That is this experience.
Okay.
Right? But when you have this experience, when there is a sense of self, you froze. That's why I think Bahiya died at the end, because he froze. When he is in this experience, you don't know what to do, who you are. So, in the commentary, he got run over by a bull and that's why he died. And when you're died in this state, of course, you're nibanic, because there's no sense of self to go further.
So when we are in the nibanic state, so to speak, there's only seeing, there's only smelling, but there's no tagging of a sense of self to these experience. And you say that while we're in there's a freeze, like literal body freeze, like we're not moving, or there's no activities. Okay.
Yeah, because it's not just no sense of self. It's the knowing that is the sense of self. So when the sense of self gone, the knowing gone. So what that means is you don't know anything, right? You don't know whether this leg is yours, so how can you walk? You don't know whether this arm is yours, so how can you eat? You don't know whether this lips is yours or this brain is yours, so how can you talk and function and think? Right? You don't know nothing. You look at things and you don't know it is a thing, right? Because your sense of self is gone. Sense of self is the knowing. There is consciousness.
Okay. So if the person who has experienced nibbana comes back from it and starts functioning in the world, does that mean that the sense of self comes back?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I have this experience when I was 14, you know. I was reading a book and then all of a sudden I froze. So all of a sudden things brighten up. It's like somebody, it's afternoon, but it seemed like somebody turned on the light. And then everything seems so very beautiful, but I don't know who I am. You know, I don't know anything. I look at my hand and I don't know it's my hand.
Okay.
So you can have a random experience like that, even for normal people, and but it only lasts, I don't know how long, but your sense of self will come back.
And would it come back, but with an understanding that this sense of self is more like a function? It's not like no longer seen as like a permanent entity who we really are.
Only if you don't know the Dharma.
Yeah. Okay.
Only if you've been studying and know it, then you would know what's happening. But say if it was for a normal person, like for me when I was 14, I don't know the Dharma, so I know nothing what's going on. You know, it's just have these really extraordinary experience, but you got no insight out of it.
Ah, I see. It reminds me of stories of I mean, two people who are not Buddhists, but Eckhart Tolle and Ramana Maharshi, when they had experience, and for a while, it's like they didn't, like Eckhart Tolle just lived on a bench park for months and didn't know what happened. He didn't know how to explain what had happened to him, and it's only later that some insights came out of it.
Okay, so I haven't finished, right? So when you're in this rupa for a while, and when you meditate, you keep having this phenomenon when you in bliss and you expand it and then you go unconscious. What happened besides thinning your sense of self out? What happened is, imagine your computer, right? It never turned off. Even when we sleep, we still dream. It still turn on, right?
Okay.
So there's not very many times that it is turned off, but every time you go into the cessation, it turn off. So imagine your computer turn off and on regularly every day for a long time. What happened to your computer? Right? It break down, right? At some point, it refused to turn on again. Right? So that's so that is literally what happened to the sense of self, right? One day, after 18 months, like, oh, something changed, right? This sense of knowing or this sense of awareness is gone. So, and with that, all the noise in your head gone. So there is this dead silence, dead stillness, but you're still walking, you're still talking, you still recognize it's your friend or your family, right? But it seems like the mouth just talk by itself.
Okay. Huh.
So
So
yeah.
is it like normal activities continue, but inside it just feels very silent and empty and
Yeah.
still?
So when the mind is big and we're in rupa, we have to integrate the change and adapt the change so that we can function, right? The same thing with when the sense of self completely gone, we also learn ways to adapt. There is a period of clunkiness where we try to function not very well.
Mm.
Um, learning how to solve problem with an empty head, learning to just do normal things when it seems like it's just doing itself.
Okay,
it's
things are okay.
yeah, it's
If
really, yeah, it's really weird experience, really weird phenomenon to be in that state where you just experience things happen by itself.
okay.
And
And
it
and how about fulfilling like not like normal everyday needs like eating and things like that? Like if you're hungry, would you still have the reflex to eat after an experience like that?
oh, okay. um Now remember that the arupa state has finished, right? The expansiveness have finished. The feeling of the bigness has finished. So now there is more, how to call, more sense of control, less
Mm.
disorienting. But now there is the emptiness, right? There is no you, yourself all gone, right? So how can you function doing everything, eating? Of course, everything come back, right? Everything never left. Like your personality, your preferences, your likes, your dislikes, your relationship with your partner, still all there.
Mm. Okay.
But there's no you in it. So you have to
Okay.
integrate how to go about taking care of the needs of yourself and others in this new state and non-state.
Okay. So there's a readapting that is done after an experience like that, and
Yes. So it will take a while, and then the more time you have to learn and readapting, the better it is. So basically, I don't know how long for each person, you're basically the same person as you were before. From the outside, right? From the outside, they look in, they won't see any difference. Except that you are incredibly compassionate, you're incredibly calm, you're incredibly happy. That may be an incredibly wise, maybe that is how they perceive from the outside. But how you are, only you know. Right? And trying to describe this, like, even for a Buddhist, it's quite even hard to understand. It's very hard to understand. It's very, because it's so paradoxical.
So let's say someone would, like me, would experience that, the arupas and then the cessation on a Sunday evening, and then Monday you have to work and meet clients and organize your, how would that go? How would that?
I don't think it will be very well, because my teacher was a therapist, and he lost all his
Okay.
clients. He lost all his client. He lost his job. He lost his business.
Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah. I
Oh
lost
my.
my job. I lost
And
my
this will
job.
be on.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's not that I was
And maybe
sad.
for. Mm,
It's just that uh, to be fair for the company, because you can't function and you're making so much mistake. It's better that you resign.
because also, especially as a therapist, there's a need to relate to the experience of the clients, and to um, even on some level feel with them, what's, as a way to empathically understand what they're talking about.
Oh, you would feel a lot. You would feel way
Mm,
more, but the cognition and how to fluently communicate is a bit glitchy.
I see. Okay.
But given it, give a little bit of time, I don't know how long the arupa and then coming out and then adapting to the emptiness is, maybe a couple or 3 years. then you'll be normal, and then practicing again.
Okay. Wow.
um okay, so there's many things changes, right, after this emptiness state. Number one, beside all the three qualities I just described, like very calm, very compassionate, and very happy, um, you don't get sick. Um, you don't get sick the way that you were, like the normal cold and flu. You don't get it anymore. Even like your household all get it. You don't get it.
Mm,
Maybe you get it if it like literally injected into you, then you might get it. But otherwise, yeah, you're not sick anymore.
okay.
You can't meditate anymore.
You can't
Right?
meditate anymore.
Yeah, because imagine, right? When you are sitting, right now you're sitting, you have awareness, you have an observer, right? You have the knowing of what to do, right? To keep your body erect for how long, and to watch, observe, right, in that time. Now, what happened when there is no self anymore is when you sit, and after a certain time, I don't know, 15-20 minutes, and you relax, um, things start to cease, because there's no observer, there's no awareness. So things, as the body calm and cease, things start to cease. So you
Mm,
just eventually, in half an hour, you eventually go unconscious. There's just cessation.
okay. I have a question related to that, especially the nibbana aspect. If an enlightenment stage is experienced, but from the four jhanas, the rupa jhanas only, will one experience those problems that you mentioned?
Yeah, that is the thing I don't know, because I haven't talked to anybody who stayed at fourth jhana and finished and and experienced non-self. I haven't. It's not that you have very many people to compare notes in the first place, but then having this variety of people to compare notes is like, it's non-existent, right? The monastic is not very transparent, right? Because of their rules, so they can't be transparent, can't share. But with lay people, even with lay people, there's not very many people sharing.
Okay. May I ask who was your teacher that you mentioned earlier?
I wouldn't want to mention my teachers. I have lots of teachers, right?
Okay.
The teachers come at the state that I needed them. So in the beginning, when I was just exploring, not even a Buddhist, just exploring spirituality, I would have lots of teachers. I would listen to this person. Eckhart Tolle was one, pretty much quite popular and typical contemporary, and also quite ancient. I would explore all of them, listen to all of them. Yeah, there are many out there, quite out there. And then when I settled down to choosing the Buddha as my teacher, then I would explore other living teacher who would teach his teaching, right? So yes, I would have my local teacher, but I would also listen to overseas teacher or somebody that I don't even know. Just go to their website, listen to that Dharma talk. So yeah, and then meeting this lay teacher was recommended by a friend. So it was chance, but it was karmically ready chance, because I was ready. And then yeah, so the reason I don't want to list teachers, because people would tend to kind of like box you into a certain belief or certain system, and then it alienate people.
Okay.
What else? So another insight you might get after you experience or non-self or emptiness become your permanent default is it's like a massive burden being relieved, right? It's like we're not on the path anymore. There's no goals to achieve. There's no efforts to cultivate this and practice that, right? So there's just this very relief feeling that now you can start living. Before you live, but you live for a purpose, you live for a goal, right? But now it's more like living for living experience sake. for the moment and more living for the people. So there is that sense. So yeah, it's a relief not to continuously wanting to understand things, practice things, meditate, retreat. Yeah, all that's gone. Because in order to do all that, then they need the self to do it. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's no like future oriented desires
No,
to
there's no
accomplish
future.
that.
There's no wanting a certain thing. Yeah, it's more like just kind of flowing with life now. There's no control, right? So if you flow with life and life, you know, present you an obstacle and then you flow somewhere else. So it's like very flowing, easily, smooth.
Okay. I'm curious, when after you have such experiences, especially the higher stages, do you still dream? Like when you sleep?
Oh
Do
yeah,
these mental activities still happen? Okay.
yeah. I don't know why there's some perception out there that you don't dream anymore, right? The 5 khandhas is still there, right? And the karma of the 5 khandhas is still there, right? And it's still arising. So this person, no, this non-person will still reap the karma of that 5 khandhas.
Okay, so the khandhas still do their things, like their
Yeah,
normal things. It's
yeah,
just that there's no you, there's no self construct around them.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And it's very hard to communicate that there's no you, right? Even Buddhists who understand and understood the concept, it's hard for them to get the head around, like, how can this non-self be angry? How can this non-self cry? How can this, so it kind of like challenge their perceived expectation. And all these expectations being taught to them, being they learn it from somewhere, because obviously, it doesn't just come to them. So yeah, so it's very hard to talk. But with non-Buddhist people, it's like, just forget it. Don't even go there. Don't even try.
Okay. Another question I had, because you said that the cessation itself, that's not nibbana. So is nibbana more what happens, so to speak, when you emerge from the cessation?
Right. So in the sutta, I remember he described that after when you experience this cessation, right? You stay there for a while, and then there's 3 kind of awareness release that a person can describe the experience, because you got to remember, many people goes different paths, and their experience will be different, and even the way that they describe their ending would be different. For example, say if you are more inclined to investigate the sense of self, then when it's gone, then you would describe it non-self, emptiness, right? But say if somebody was investigating into impermanence, or the changing nature of existence, then when that impermanent, it's not there, then they would describe it as signless, right? There's no sign, there's no movement. They would describe it like that. And the other one is dukkha, right? So if somebody investigate their practice, their whole life practice is looking into the nature of suffering and happiness, and when it's all gone, then they would describe as the release of suffering.
Okay.
So people would describe it differently, but for me, I incline toward investigating the sense of self. So when it's gone, it feels like, oh, non-self emptiness.
Okay.
And the reason why cessation or experiencing sensation is not enough for nibbana, because you can tell, right? After you come out, cessation, is there a sense of self? Is there still delusion? Is there still the three characteristics that is, you have to investigate? If it's still there, then that experience is not enough. You need more of that experience. And it's not, again, you're not in control of how many experience you need, how long it need to go for. Yeah, it's just something quite individual.
Okay. And would you say this whole process until a cessation is experienced at the 4 stages of enlightenment, like a stream entry or once returning, or
Yeah.
yeah, does this kind of cessation occurs at the 4 stage of enlightenment?
You mean, can you still have cessation experience if you're first just stream enterer?
Yes, for example, like does a stream enterer experience that cessation? And
okay, this is, I'm going to the area of just speculation here.
Okay.
Because for me, it's not, I don't investigate into where I am at the 4 stages, right?
Okay.
It's not important to me. What important to me is there work for me left to do, and what it is that I need to do it. That's all I'm interested in. I'm not interested in where I am, what state.
Okay.
Yeah, and what have I cut, what have left to go. Because when you do that, it's not the standard from the book. It's not reality, right? People measure their progress in terms of, say, the 10 fetters. It's grossly unrealistic, right? They turn themselves into a zombie that don't feel apathy, right? Well, in my opinion, it seems like detachment is more like apathy.
Okay. So when you say after a cessation, you would look into what is left to be done. It's not in terms of the 10 fetters, if I understand you correctly. And that's not your yardstick to measure what needs to be. Okay. So
Yeah.
how do you decide what's left to be done, or how?
What is still existing? So finally, you would like eliminate, by deduction, you eliminate all the factors, and you would zoom into this consciousness, right? Because if this consciousness depend or land onto anything, it is for example, the fact that you look at something and you know it, that knowing means that consciousness has landed and you perceived it. So therefore, there is the desire to exist, right? It's not, the three craving of existing, for sense desires, or the asava. Oh, there's so many things that you need to know, as the outflow, right? The outflow into sense desires, delusion, and finally existence. Right. So yeah, so that's it. Finally, like right at the end is the knowing, because if you look at things and that means you still exist.
Okay. So the end, or the end goal will be when consciousness stops landing.
Because in the sutta, he say wherever consciousness land, that's where it will exist, that's where it will grow, that's where it will proliferate and continue growing, existing. So meaning samsara.
Okay, but so if that goal is reached, how does the person function? For example, if the telephone rings and there needs to be, this is a telephone and it means somebody is trying to reach me, or something like that.
So remember how I said there is the paradox nature of not existing and existing. So in one sense, that consciousness doesn't exist anymore. There is this emptiness, there's this absence of reality, but then there is still the five khandhas left. The five khandhas still does its things, right? There is still knowing, still consciousness, there's still thinking, there's still personality, there's still feeling, there's still the body. So there will be something picking up the phone and answer.
Okay.
But it's not the way you were before.
I see. Okay, you mentioned that. Yeah, like the khandhas will still do their things, but the consciousness won't necessarily land on it the way it used to.
Yeah, it can't, because there is this emptiness, like there is this space of non-existence. So it can't land, nothing land, and nothing attached, nothing move, nothing happening in this space of non-existence.
Okay. So would you say that like models like the 10 fetters and the asavas, that you have to eliminate these, that this is not like a realistic thing?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Just is again, examine yourself, self-aware, investigate into this nature of the observer, because there's no point keep investigating the observed, right? At some point you have to question the observer.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
there's many school of pathway out there, so many. You're talking about
Mm.
the Mahasi way, you're talking about the Mahayana way. The one that I am more inclined is the Veda way.
The what?
The Veda, the forest way, the
Oh,
way,
okay.
yeah, that sticks closely to the Pali Sutta. And then, but within the
Right.
Veda, there is the Abhidharma way. So,
Mm.
so there's lots and lots of schools and sects out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it will be interesting to compare notes.
Well, yeah, I mean, one teacher I've been working with also um, has questioned the Fetter model and doesn't define necessarily awakening through that model.
Mm, mm.
So, so
Because
yeah.
because I did the same mistake, right? I
Mm.
examined the fetters, but then when you meet somebody who is empty, all that fetter just goes out the window, right?
Mm.
Because like he just behaved like a human being, right?
Yeah.
He got girlfriend, he got mortgages, he got jobs, he got it seems like he's angry and he's crying. It's like, and then it's kind of short circuit your head. Is like, what's going on here?
Another question that's been I mean discussed a lot in some of the circles I practiced is the idea that after awakening you'll be morally upgraded, like you won't be able to hurt anybody, you will keep your precept very intact and it's impossible that you will break it. And some people, they question that model as well.
Oh, okay. Right. Ah, now, if you are a teacher, when you are in this state and you find yourself being a teacher, then you would be uphold the moral. You'll be more like a living examples. But if you are in this state and you choose to be a nobody, right? It's not that you're not immoral. Um, uh, it's not. We keep the 5 precepts for a reason. We keep a lot of precepts and restraining for a reason. It's for the
Mm.
practice. It's to discipline the mind. It's to create boundaries. All that part of the practice, right? But
Okay.
when you realize, or there is no path left, there is no goals left. It's not that you are immoral, far from it. Your morality is goes up a level, not a level, many level. You're very compassionate because now you have to question why you keep living. Before you live for the path, before you live for the goal, you live for the practice. But now it's like, what are you living for? And the only answer is you live for the people, right? You live to serve for the benefits of them,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
right? Because for the benefit of yourself is gone, done, finished the job.
So the only meaning left to one's life would be to serve others or to benefit
Yeah,
others.
yeah. Now, serving others can be in many capacity. You don't have to do nothing at all, right? Because the person who is in this state is already a ripple, right? Wherever they go, they already have the effects. They don't have to consciously proactive in any activity of helping. But there would probably might be in the initial state to want to do something. But as a presence, keeping this presence alive is already serving.
Okay.
Because imagine like how many non-existent walking around. How many non-existent going to shop, going to to the movies, just mingle with ordinary people. And wherever it goes, or this person goes, there is the effects.
Yeah. Okay. You were mentioning earlier about a teacher that had a field, some kind of energetic field. So I would guess one has a kind of field that is beneficial to others.
Now, I also investigate this phenomenon also. There's many factors that need to be present for a strong field to happen, not just the person itself. Yes, the person need to be non-existent, right? But at high altitude, that's what I realized. Right? There is something happening with places that is on the hill, on the mountain. The reason I just accidentally discovered this because I was going to shop for properties, and the few property that was very high on the hill, I have these effects on my mind also. It's similar to the field, but the field would magnify that. So these places got not empty person, non-self person. It's just normal people, but they're high on the hill. There's some places, right? Another factor is there need to be many people present. So just 2 people on the hill is not enough energy, right? There need to be a group of people.
Okay.
So that's what I identified as the 3 factors that need to be present to have this strong field.
Okay.
And when this field happen, amazing things happen. Amazing things happen for people who is ready.
Okay. Interesting. Maybe if I could ask one more question.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this. As many questions as you like.
Video's a bit long, but I wanted to come back to the fetters because when I look at those lists, the fetters, the asavas, they are things that do exist in our minds, that do manifest. I mean, I think we can recognize the mana and greed and these kinds of things. So if the goal is not about eliminating those things, what does happen to those things? Is it that they can still manifest but they're not grasped? It's like the paradox you mentioned earlier, like it's
No, okay. You still haven't understand the paradox. Now, all the factors are factors because of this delusion of self.
okay.
Right? Because who have all these factors? who is angry, who is deluded, who is conceited, who is ill will, who have their sense desires, right? Because this sense of self, right?
Okay.
And when it's like you know, the Buddha say, once the tree is uprooted and make into a stump, it won't regrow.
Right.
Right. Everything happened because there is roots and there is the tree. Right. So when there is the sense of self is totally extinguished, all the fat is gone.
Okay.
Right. All the attachment already cut a lot when you're in Arupa. Already, you can't function very well at all. Right.
Mm.
So a lot of it already cut. It's just the consciousness wanting to exist is the final cut. So when the sense of self and is gone, and there is this emptiness, right? There's no factor in there. It's totally empty, right? That's it's totally absence of reality, meaning absolutely nothing, right?
Okay.
But at the same time, the 5 candles is still working. Get it?
Okay.
Yes,
I'll
there
practice
is.
more. And
Yes, there is the perception of greed. Yes, there is the perception of angry and emotional, right? But where that sense of self is gone, right? So there is non-exist and existent happen at the same time. That's why there's the paradox.
Okay.
That's why you can't you can do the feathers and examine, but right at the end, your sense of self, yeah, it's the fetus is not very clear cut standard to measure against.
Okay.
For me, it's like, how well can you go into jhana? How is your heart? How is your mind? How is it peaceful? How can you let go of things? It's more of those. When you get triggered, how fast can you let go? Or how fast can you see the Dharma in it? So it's more like that. That is my measure of progress.
Okay. Yes, it sounds very pragmatic, very practical things to focus on.
Yeah, it has to be pragmatic, because no point having the yardstick that just stick in the book, you know, and it doesn't relate, it doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
So to cut it short, right, a lay person can still practice, can still achieve, and coming out at the other end, still maintain the marriage, still have family, still have a job. It's just a little bit of the transition, a little bit hard here and there.
Okay. Okay.
And and in the end, you'll be way better person in terms of for your relationship, in terms for your family, but even in terms of for your client, for people you meet, it's just a whole lot better.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you for the generosity of your time and the sharing all of that. It's it's a delight
Yeah,
for me to be able to hear you.
yeah. I just feel very strong. There need to be transparency. There need to be this mysticism unfold, and this perception that a certain minority of the population hold the authority over this knowledge or this experience is just wrong. I think it needs to be transparent for the benefit of the whole population, so that everybody can benefit, regardless whether they are of different religion, different belief system, right? Because in the end, everybody is human, right? And everybody have this light in them. They have this dimension, and they have this untapped potential, and they have this phenomenon, areas to explore of themselves, and that's inherent in every people of our 8-9 billion people, and it needs to reach all of those people, not just restricted to a certain minority of belief. You got to believe this before you have access to that.
Right, so it's a natural path, really, that everybody could relate to.
Yeah. But when say a non-Buddhist hear this concept of non-self, they get very scared. It's like annihilation. It's like I stop to exist. But as we practice, we realize that this thing that exists is holographic. Is totally an illusion anyway. So it's not a matter of how can an illusion or mirage annihilate. It's just being seen through, that's all. Or just it's stop being an illusion.
Yeah, so for someone who holds the concept of self solidly, it would sound scary, the idea of not self.
But if they can see the benefit of non-self, how wonderful it is. Imagine it's like all the noise in your head to stop. Imagine how would that feel?
That'd be great.
Yeah, just one thing that happened, not compared to all to the rest. Just that one thing, all the noise in your head stop.
Cool.
It's nearly 2 hours.
Yeah, this one was long video.
Yeah, it's very
fascinating.
big. Yeah, and we covered a lot, and we busted quite a few myths. Yeah. Okay, so any more question, Ben, you can think of?
I'm sure questions will come up in the next few days for me, but right now it's quite good. It's quite
Okay. So
I don't have questions.
okay, so we leave it for now, and just jot down all your question, and we'll address it in the next few videos. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Keshin.